Well, this has to mean something. This is the first time in well over a month that I've woken up at 6:40, that I've woken up out of sleep with a profound interpretation of what's going on, artistic interpretation of how to proceed. Fuck it, I'm not going to explain it, I'm just going to say it before I lose it. Yes, this is my story. I am telling the story I am about to tell with a bunch of mini stories and little stories and specific stories about my life, Alyson. But it is not just me. If I believe in one, me is we. Make no mistake about it, I am telling our story, the one human family story. For my story, all of my stories are a reflection to me. They're mirrors to me, law of attraction. And I haven't been a chatterbox my whole life by accident. So many people in my life know so many others in my life, not by names, but by all my stories. And very rarely have my stories that I've told to so many people throughout my life, they're usually entertaining and loving, because I'm not somebody, there's going to be a notion of gossip, but not in the negative, harmful way of gossip, just in telling of the stories. So many of you in my life know one another, and I am here to tell you that this is not accidental. We are not crossing paths at this time. We are not still in one another's lives in whatever way you're still connected to me. Via Facebook, face-to-face, still experiencing specific life situations. If we're still communicating over the phone, if we've still exchanged emails or text messages, it is not an accident. All of my stories are a reflection to me of my life, law of attraction, and I am a reflection of you. My story, my life is a reflection of you. If I look in all the craziness of the stories of my past, now with my awakening, now with my understanding of the oneness of the connections, I can see what each of those crazy things were telling me about my own life. And it's beautiful when I look back, because I can see it's not accidental. Look at what parts of my story are reflecting parts of you. Because it is that. When you believe in one, there is no I or me or you. There is only one. I am you. You are me. There is only we. I am telling my story, but my story is our story. Think about it. Think about how much I've talked my whole life. How many stories I've told to all of you who have ever spent any amount of time with me. Think about how many people I've crossed paths with. Wow. And think about the variety. Man, I'm going to be able to tell stories that connect with the star athlete men out there, with men in their senior years, with the way that I'll tell a story about being an athlete and being part of a team, and how my life changed so dramatically when I lost my team, when I lost being part of a real team. Do you know how many people, specifically men, I'll reach with those stories? But then I'll reach the teenagers when I tell stories about the pain of my childhood and how it was so hard to be in a home where you could see all the adult things going on and where you had the ability to communicate with the adults what was going on, but the adults, so many of the adults in your life wanted to treat you or not see you as having that capability, even though it was glaringly obvious to them that you did. But we're so stuck with labels, including age and including who we are to one another, that you just had to endure that. How about the suffering? How about the realization this week that a friend of mine's boyfriend, or he's my friend too, but he's my very, very close friend's boyfriend. His father has been holding on for life now for like 3 years. I mean, and not really happy. He doesn't want to be living anymore. He doesn't want to be living. He's in his 80s. He's had a full life. His wife is like super his parents, his mom is so beautiful. His mom is so beautiful. My friend's boyfriend's mom. And his dad is, not as talkative as his mom, and I haven't talked to him as much, but you can see he just wants to go, right? How about this interpretation? How about this? I'm not super close to him. My friend isn't super, super close to him, right? But we are not but she is in their life pretty often right now because their son is her boyfriend. And she is in my life very often right now because she was one of my brightest lights on my conscious spiritual journey. She is one of the few people in my life at present with whom I can speak the language of these powerful times. And how about this? What a different friend of mine said to me, those with the greatest awareness have the greater responsibility. Those with the greatest awareness, the greater awareness, have the greater responsibility. Okay, so, if you're in a fight with someone and you want to be right and they want to be right, well, it's not about proving or convincing. Somebody, in every situation, what's yours generally, and the other person generally knows what's theirs. The only time that there becomes a battle is when our egos get involved. And somebody in that situation needs to be the bigger person and just say, yeah, you know what, come on. I know what's mine and they know what's theirs, but I'm not going to convince them of that, and I'm not accepting their part. And I've got the greater awareness. I see this, I understand it, and because I've got the greater awareness, my ego doesn't need to be right. I just need to let it go and let this person think they're right or whatever it is and move beyond, because I have the greater understanding that it isn't about being right. Well, same thing in terms of letting go in life. This man who's connected to me on a periphery right now, but still pretty close. My friend's boyfriend's dad. How about this? I predict he will die. He will let himself let go when my friend and I let go. Because she and I know that if we believe in what we claim to believe, in the oneness of everything, that when one of our brothers or sisters suffers, we suffer. And that in every situation, when there's something we can do to ease the suffering, we've got the greater awareness, the onus is on us. In this situation, she and I both know that in our own respective lives right now, we still have letting go to do. And how do we know that? Because there are aspects of each of our day-to-day lives that are not yet matching what we desire. Okay? There are things in our life, in our mutual lives right now, or in our individual lives. Okay? Because it's amazing, because there are things that crisscross. And that's why that's why this part of the story is so intense. Because this is the friend that brought me back to Florida. This is this single person whose influence was the greatest in bringing me back to Florida. But I had a great lesson to learn, because there's a lot of overlap between us, but our grand visions are not the same. But right now we are crossing paths because we are absolutely supposed to be helping one another more directly in our day-to-day lives than other people in our lives right now. We are in one another's lives right now, physically in the same state. Within 45 minutes of one another we live. We are here to help one another. And we don't need a bigger mirror than her boyfriend's dad with no explanation. Doctors gave him, over a year ago, they gave him, seriously, I think it was weeks to live. Doctors gave him weeks to live, and it's now like 14 months later, and he is still alive and not really wanting to be alive. And it hit me this Wednesday on his 83rd birthday when I coincidentally had to go up to St. Pete. And since I had to go up there to see other friends, I called this friend and said, hey, do you want to meet for a couple hours? Did not remember that it was this man's birthday. And I got to say hello to them as they prepared to go to dinner over to Tampa, to a restaurant I haven't been to, very fancy restaurant, since my wedding engagement. Oh my God, the connections are incredible. They're incredible. And this explains why I've been so obsessed. This has been the strangest month. The month of August has been so... unlike any month in 2013, I can tell you that. Lord knows this whole year's been challenging. Lord knows I've pushed through some awkward months, some tough months. But what I always was able to maintain, there was actual work, quote unquote, work being produced. I was still writing, I was still putting videos up, but when the website transition happened, which I am thankful for, that had to happen, that threw my flow off. This has been an insanely transitional month. And it was necessary. I'm thankful for it. I understand it. I've understood it more and more as the month has passed. But this now, oh my God. This is so... I know the story has been the reason why I've been watching or feeling inclined. It's not for lack of trying. I mean, I look at all this stuff in my house. I've got these papers. I go through it every day. I'm spending at least a few hours every day. Okay, a few hours might be an extreme. A couple hours. I'm trying to get the flow, but I know this now. I know how this works. You can't force it. I cannot force it. And then if I get upset with myself and worried because it's not coming, I'm just going to clog it up even more. And it's so flippin' hot outside that I don't feel the desire to go outside. So the only thing left to do has been watching all these films and documentaries and TV programs. And I'm not usually like that, but now it makes sense, Alyson. Think about what you've been watching. Think about it. I know I'm weaving together a story. And I've known all along that although I'm telling it through myself, that it is a story about all of us. And I've been watching different interpretations of how other artists have woven together. And I gotta say, if you're an artist in any way, you're tuned in. At least, you're tuned into this greater truth. I can't explain why I believe that to be true, but I do. And I think the programs and the films that are the most well done, it's a hypothesis of mine, but it seems to me that the ones that are the best written, and I call them, the more cerebral ones, especially the ones that are written so well and are so intellectual, but have still managed to be appealing to the masses, even though so many layers of the message are probably lost on a lot of the viewers. No pun intended, because one of the shows is Lost. In fact, that was the show that was at the top of my list there, because there are so many layers to Lost. But Lost, Northern Exposure, Grey's Anatomy, The West Wing, 24, United States of Terror, Dexter, Breaking Bad. These are the shows that I've been watching. And I found it odd that I went back to 24 this past week. Because it's so violent, because it's so focused on the terrorism. You know, Kiefer Sutherland drew me back, man. He's so freaking cute in that movie. But and I watched that with one of my closest friends at the time when we watched that together. So it's but when I look at how there are some very profoundly idealistic lines written, David Palmer is a very idealistic president, not unlike Jed Bartlett. David Palmer he's not the same kind of brilliant as Jed Bartlett, but what we should be allowed to do in these roles. We all know that shit would never. How do we know what would happen, what wouldn't happen? You know, when we say, oh, that only happens in the movies or that only happens on TV. I'm telling you guys and girls, it is one big game out there. And then watching, a disc recently of that show, Life on Mars. And it only lasted one season, and I've had the disc for months, actually, from Netflix. I've had it in my house, and I found it the other day, and I'm like, crap, I've had this forever. Let me watch this. And it was the last 4 episodes, and I didn't know that the show only lasted one season. And as I watched these episodes, I can tell you exactly why it only lasted one season. It went too far. It went too far with what it was sort of projecting and saying. It just, the masses weren't exactly ready yet. And it was somewhat intelligent. I mean, it wasn't super witty, but it was funny. I mean, I think it was well done, especially when you're watching the early episodes, because how can you not laugh? It takes you back to 1973, and it is so stark the way that being a police officer has changed in those years, and what they were allowed to do and what they weren't, how women were treated, and it's just incredible. So it was entertaining, to be sure, for the early episodes, as you got used to this new take, this perspective that they were trying to tell with this, but it went a little too far. Even I could say that, and you know how on the fringe I am. But what was that telling me? That was telling me what I already knew. The very last thing I published was a podcast 3.5 weeks ago. And I went a little far. Because while I know I have the ability right now to communicate to the millions, and there are millions, that are ready for the very on the fringe message, I have the capabilities to communicate with many more than that. And because of the awareness that I have, it's not up to me to convince or prove that fact. It's up to me to just do it, because by doing it, I can ease the suffering. And that is beginning to come out of me, but the story is right in front of me, but it won't all come together. It is coming together. This is huge when I let go. And that could not have been made more obvious than it was just a few days ago with both me and my friend. We both just need to truly let go and trust. I just need to take the step. It's just like Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark, man. Remember when he's in pursuit, but he comes to that bridge, and everything says that it's right there, but he has to step and the path will appear. If he believes it to be true, as soon as he steps, the stone will appear. God, that's where I'm at. I've been battling my eating, and for the past 3 weeks, like I didn't think this would return. I didn't think it would return. And it did. I mean, it didn't return super, super bad, but it definitely returned to a point where I never thought it would come back. And that, I cannot blame it on a habit anymore. Once you become aware of a habit, now it's a choice. Now it's a choice that I'm making. I'm not doing it habitually and I'm engaged in it before I'm even aware of it. I chose every time. And there were days where I was able to overcome it. There were days where I didn't get in my car to go pick up some junk food. There were days where I didn't call Domino's, because that's how easy our world has made it. But there were plenty of days in the past 3 weeks where I did those things. And thank God I'm finally paying the price with my body. Thank God I felt horrendous on this past Thursday because what I did Wednesday night. And why did I do it Wednesday night? After this profound trip to St. Pete? Because strangely, it's not just strangely in the past couple of years, it's not so much the down times that get me driving to my old habits, or old patterns, I should say. But it's the overwhelming good. It's the overwhelming, oh my God, holy crap. I mean, I've been saying there are no accidents, there are no coincidences, everything is happening for a reason, we're all crossing paths for a reason. I've been saying that my whole life, but I've been saying that with a whole new emphasis now for over 2.5 years, and I truly have believed that I understood it and meant it, I didn't think that the awareness of that could get any stronger, and it does. It keeps getting stronger. It was so amazing what I could see on Wednesday with how everybody, the friends, oh my God. Like I said, I'm so close to being able to see how I am meant to weave this together right now. And I know, yes, words are going to be involved. But I also know it has to be more than words, because the number of words it would take to explain this phenomena is just so cumbersome. What did I say? I said something in bed before I got up this morning to myself relating to this painting that I did yesterday. And I'll tell you, this is the first of its kind. This one painting. What did I say? Letting go. What did I say? Oh, how about that? My alarm. I'm going to set that off. What did I say? What did I say? What did I say? Imprisoning. Oh God. So anyway, this I'm going to feel this right now because this is good. This is a good sign. I mean, I've been waking up early all week, which is a great, no matter what time I'm falling asleep, which is a great sign. And I understand all the TV has been observing the different takes, the different ways of putting the stories together. Now, in TV and film, they're doing it through dialogue and through storyline, through storyline first and character development second, right? And then the other parts of it come into play, sure. The scenery and I mean, that was huge in Lost. I mean, that was a huge part of the, what's the word I'm looking for? The environment, the setting was a significant character in Lost. But so setting is important. So you got storyline, character development. Within character development is dialogue. And you've got setting, you've got music. So if I take those same things, I mean, this is kind of trippy as I talk through this. Yesterday I changed. I mean, I've been resistant to changing on Facebook, even though I've left living in Seattle for a whole year. I'm not living in Seattle. I've been living in Sarasota. But how can I have claimed to really be living here and be in my present when I've been reluctant to put it on there? So I changed that yesterday. That's not an accident. That's not an accident. My setting is Florida. Okay? My storyline. I said to myself yesterday that I was going to get up today, because today is, yes, I know that they're arbitrary, our months and such, but they're not. At the same time, they're not. It's kind of like, money is arbitrary, whether you want to believe it or not. But in the third dimension, which I'm still living in, which a larger percentage of my day-to-day life is still rooted in the third dimension than I would like. That's kind of like where my friend and I are the exact same. That's how we both know that we haven't let go to our fullest capacity yet, because our day-to-day lives will look very differently. We will have things manifest for each of us in our respective lives when we let go almost immediately. But for me, the greatest thing that's going to happen when I let go, this story is going to flow out of me. And anyway, today's the last day of the month. And I'm not going to get into the specific reason why, but it's due to the influence of one of my greatest teachers at this point right now. One of the two greatest spiritual influences on me right now. And they're what I've read and what I've listened to with them over the past few years. This is a culminating month of some very, very strong energy. And we're shifting into a very, very different energy beginning tomorrow. And so I said for myself in preparation of that shift, I think that's part of the reason I got into this old pattern that used to be tied directly to my eating and exercise. Always saying, I'll start tomorrow. I'll start tomorrow. Come on. Everyone knows that. I'll start my diet tomorrow. I'll start eating well tomorrow. I'll start my exercise program tomorrow. Oh my God. If you ever say that, you're not living. Why would I ever want today to go by quickly if I'm truly in the present and loving all that my life is the way that I should be, because my life is beautiful? That should never, quote unquote, should never come out of my mouth. And I have been in that place more days this month than in the past 2.5 years. And that's an indicator. I'm not beating myself up about it. That's an indicator that something's not jiving right. And I think a lot of it has to do is because I knew this was an intense month. And rather than just, I've held on for most of it, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm patting myself on the back big time. Big time. Because the old story, Alyson would have been flipping out that I've completely lost my flow of work. I've likely lost all the fans that I think I had, and I'd be completely flipping out about all of it. And I'm not. I'd be worried about what this looks like. Everybody's probably like, oh, yep, there's Alyson. She gets all excited, and yeah, this is about right on time. She usually lasts about a year, and then she'll fizzle out. They're probably all sitting back saying that, right? And it's okay if they are, but I'm not. And the fact that I didn't let that derail me more this month has been miraculous. And so in preparation for the knowing that the energy changes tomorrow, and my Harrison Ford moment of taking that different step, and trusting that the stone will appear, that will catch my foot. I was going to try to lay out what my story is, hence the storyline. I've got the setting. The setting is in stone, no pun intended. The setting is Florida. Okay, the primary setting is Florida. And I already know I have at least one trip planned. I got to go home to Seattle in 5 weeks to see Josh Groban's concert and to move my stuff into storage. So, the setting is set. And I've got a story, I know my story, but we got to figure out what parts of it, knowing that the main goal is to reach as many people as I'm capable of reaching. So we got to tap into the athletic part of my story, the female part, like the eating disorder and body image, the for-profit business world, the everyday sort of Joe Schmo world I've been in terms of, barely making ends meet. It's just, I got to identify the themes. That's what I need to do next. Okay? So it's not even the storyline, it's the themes. Because every show has the general themes. And some of them, like Grey's Anatomy, they relate, right? Because the characters relate. But the theme of the show is generally very different. Whereas 24, that's just one day. That's a very different approach. So I'm saying, this is exactly why I've been watching so much. Is I've been studying the artistic side of it. Okay, so I know that mine has many different themes. I need to identify all the themes, and I've got this whole stack. Holy shit, look at this. This is over a month. This is a month's worth of podcast. I have so much material.